delivering quality education, expanding access to learning, serving learners' learning needs, tackling challenges of the present time, supporting every learner's dream, reaching young Tagalogans where they are today. From the music capital of the Philippines, advancing in the challenge of distance learning. Bringing you quality education straight to your home. Plug yourself in. This is DepEd TV. Tara na!
Good morning, senior high school learners! How are you? Are you ready to learn anew? I am your teacher on screen, Josephine, and I will be joining you in today's episode of LANTAW COMPRE. Pick now your pen, paper, and self-learning module, and let's get started. Welcome to Understanding Culture, Society, and Politics, Module 11, Lesson 1, Ways to Address Social Inequalities. Please don't miss out the lesson objectives. This is the pre-test. Here, we will assess your previous knowledge on our lesson. Write only the letter which carries the correct answer. You will be given 10 seconds in each item to finalize your answer. Game on? Number 1. This refers to the unequal distribution of wealth, power, and prestige, with some nations as economically productive than others. A. Stratification. B. Differentiation. C. Social inequality. And D. Global inequality. The correct answer is letter D, global inequality. Very good. Number 2. Which classification of countries is described as rich? A. First world. B. Second world. C. Third world. And D. Fourth world. Letter A. First world is the correct answer. Number 3. Which classification of countries has poor standard of living? A. High-income countries. B. Middle-income countries. C. Low-income countries. And D. Extremely low-income countries. You got it! Letter C, low-income countries is the answer. Number 4. Which is not a stage of development from Rostow's change towards higher living standards? A. Take-off stage. B. Traditional stage. C. Psychosocial stage. D. Drive to technological maturity stage. Good choice. Letter C. Psychosocial stage is the answer. Number 5. Which is a wrong association below? A. Modernization theory, Karl Marx. B. Dependency theory, Andre Gunder. C. Dependency theory, historical exploitation. D. Modernization theory, technological differences. You made it again. It's letter A, modernization theory, Karl Marx. You did well in your pre-test. Good job, class. I'm sure you are ready for the next phase. Are you? Well, there's just only one way to find out. I want you to look closely on the picture. What do you see? What does the picture try to depict? Do you think it represents the social inequalities people experience around the world? Social stratification involves not just people within a single country. It is also a worldwide pattern, with some nations far more economically productive than others. We term this as global inequality. How are countries classified? Do you know where the Philippines belongs? I will be presenting to you now Figure 1, the Three Worlds Model. Meanwhile, Figure 2 illustrates the revised system of classification based on economic development of countries. As we move further, we will talk about the modernization and dependency theories. These two theories best explain why inequalities exist among nations. First, the modernization theory by Walt Rostow. Rostow explains global inequality in terms of technological and cultural differences between nations. He believes that nations become rich by developing advanced technology, a process that depends on a culture that encourages innovation and change toward higher living standards. Moreover, Rostow identifies 4 stages of development, namely traditional stage, take-off stage, drive to technological maturity, and high mass consumption. What then is Rostow's suggestion to address global inequalities? His modernization theory highlights the role of technology transfer and foreign aid. Accordingly, rich nations can help poor nations by providing technology to control population size, increase food production, and expand industrial output, and by providing foreign aid to support economic development. Meanwhile, Andre Gunder Frank, in his dependency theory, views global inequality as a result of the historical exploitation of poor nations by rich ones. It maintains that colonialism created global inequality beginning 500 years ago, giving rise to rich nations and underdeveloped poor nations. This process continues today in the form of neocolonialism, or the economic exploitation of poor nations by multinational corporations. In support of Frank's views, Immanuel Wallerstein, in his model of the capitalist world economy, identified three categories of nations, namely core, semi-periphery, and periphery. Moreover, Andre Gunder Frank's dependency theory argues that countries in the periphery must cut the umbilical cord that connects them to the center if they were to become developed countries themselves. To address global inequalities, Frank claims that the three factors, namely export orientation, a lack of industrial capacity, and foreign debt, make poor countries dependent on rich nations and prevent their economic development. Do you have further questions about the two theories of global inequalities? If there is none, let's move a step forward to our lesson. This time, let's get a closer look to Figure 7.1, Policy Framework to Address Inequality. It aims to provide ways and means to systematically and comprehensively address the inequalities. Its main focus are on moderating income inequality, on closing gaps in education, health and nutrition, and addressing social exclusion and discrimination. We just had a fruitful discussion, class. Make sure not to miss a single activity to help you get ahead with the lesson. Please fill out the table and let us practice on page 7. Answer the process questions and let us practice more on page 8. And complete the pledge of commitment. Let us remember page 10. Class, you have finally reached the post-test. This is to check whether you understood by heart today's discussion. You only have 10 seconds to pick the answer. Get ready? Number 1. Which does not describe first world countries? A. Rich. B. Industrialized. C. Socialist country. D. Capitalist country. A first world country is not a socialist country. Letter C. Number 2. Which best describes low-income countries? A. Their per capita GDP is less than $2,500. B. Their per capita GDP is less than $12,000. C. Their per capita GDP is greater than $12,000. D. Their per capita GDP is less than $12,000 but greater than $2,500. Low-income countries per capita GDP is less than $2,500. Letter A, correct. Number 3. Which should be avoided to address inequalities according to the modernization theory? A. Foreign debt. B. Control population size. C. Increase food production. D. Expand industrial output. Modernization theory believes that foreign debt hampers global equality. Letter A. Good job! Number 4, which is not included in the policy framework in addressing inequality in developing countries. A. Moderating income inequality. B. Closing gaps in education, health, and nutrition. C. Tackling prejudice, discrimination, and social exclusion. D. Optimizing the campaign on rapid growth of population. Nicely done! Letter D. Optimizing the campaign on rapid growth and population is the answer. Number 5. Equal opportunities can level the playing field so that the circumstances of birth do not adversely influence an individual's chances to get ahead in life, which is or are examples of circumstances of birth. A. Race. B. Gender. C. Rural or urban location. D. All of the above. All three options are equally important. Letter D. All of the above. Congratulations for giving your best in the first 5 items. Let's see how will you perform with the rest of the tests. Open now your modules and continue the challenge. Thank you so much for joining your teacher on screen, Josephine, in today's episode of LANTAW COMPRE. Let us all respond to Nelson Mandela's call. As long as poverty, injustice, and gross inequality persist in our world, none of us can truly rest.